Welcome to the show, everybody. I'm gonna get that timing down on the transition from like the pre-recorded stuff to the show down one day. I was close this time. I really did try to time it out. Didn't quite work. But anyway, I'm Garrett, and this is your box office breakdown domestic weekend of the 20th through the 22nd. And let's take a look at what happened. We're gonna go through the top five. What happened? Some other stories in the weekend box office, domestic. Look at some of the worldwide stuff. Then take a look at the upcoming film this week, which you probably already know what that is. And then for the first time in the show, I want to take a look at the top 10 worldwide and top 10 domestic box office through the year, how it stands right now. Just because otherwise I don't think we're going to have quite as much to talk about on this show because we only have one film, and I came up with a bunch of random stuff to talk about that film, but still wanted to come up with something else just in case I had to fill up some of that time because, hey, I got my half-hour block and I'm going to use it. So without further ado, let's get into the box office top 5. Coming in at number 1, there was once again this week a battle between Rampage and A Quiet Place for that top spot. But this week, Quiet Place regained that crown coming into week 3. It grossed just under $21 million this weekend. Got 200 more theaters this weekend in 3,800 theaters. And good job for it doing well, and it officially became Paramount's let me rephrase that. It officially earned more than any Paramount film did the entirety of last year, as it passed Transformers: The Last Night, which grossed $130 million during its run last year. In A Quiet Place, its domestic total is now up to $130.2 million, and it has a possibility of passing right now the highest earning Paramount film right now, of like the most recent one is at 150 or so million, is Star Trek Beyond, and A Quiet Place will likely pass that in a handful of weeks. Globally, it added 15 million this week, bringing its global total up to 75 million. Then Rampage did have to settle for that number 2 spot, coming in at 20 million, 41% drop from last week, or 43 actually percent drop from last week. Not the best word of mouth, but that's not the worst drop. We'll get to one later that dropped a little bit more than that. And that one, it's bringing its total up to 65.6 million domestically, but shouldn't be too worried because it is looking at that $120 million production budget. Luckily for it, though, it did add 57 million worldwide this week, bringing just its worldwide total up to 216 million, including over 100 million in China, where it was once again the number 1 spot this week. So it's going to continue to hope that the worldwide market will support it and be able to make it a plus box office run, as Warner Brothers, I'm sure, hoped it would be, considering that's what you'd expect out of most anything with The Rock in it, even if it is able to kind of make a positive gain over whatever its budget was if you put in marketing. I think it's safe to say that it has operated under expectations for Warner Brothers. But something that did a little bit over expectations was I Feel Pretty. Not a whole lot to talk about this one, but it did come in at 16 million over the weekend, which is a little bit more than what it was projected. It was projected around 13 or so. 16 wasn't out of the range of possibility, but that was certainly on the higher end. And that was in 3,400 theaters. And just so, since we didn't get any of the ratings last week, just going to run you down what they look like at this moment. 47 Metacritic, 3.8 on IMDb, 34 on Rotten Tomatoes, and a 32% audience score. Not the hottest ratings right there, but I think it's safe to say this is never a film that critics are really going to love. And I think this film is certainly susceptible to review bombings of sorts. I didn't get a chance to see this. I actually didn't see any of the wide release films this week because I got lazy. I did go and see You Were Never Really Here, which I talked about a few weeks ago, indie film with Joaquin Phoenix. Joaquin! I love that name. And that was a very interesting film. It's not really my kind of film, but I was glad I got to see it, and then I was too lazy to go see another film. Honestly, probably could have gone to see both of those, but I haven't been able to get myself to go see 2 movies a week for 2 weeks now, and that really bothers me. Just because I got to get over the fact that I'm going to have to see some movies that are bad. You know, that's going to be, if I want to do this, it's going to be part of my job. But another film that surpassed expectations was Super Troopers 2. Which came in, let me see, that is, wow. Okay, this is weird. That made around 14 million, which was way ahead of anything that it was predicted to be. I thought that its highest bar was around 12 million because it was only in just over 2,000 theaters, and anything around 2,000 theaters that I had seen was the highest I'd seen anything around 2,000 theaters was that 12 million from Deuce Bigalow, Male Gigolo, cinematic masterpiece. But it did even better than that. It really hit home in its target audience, apparently. And its ratings, 40 Metascore, 7.2 IMDb, 35%. Critic rating on Rotten Tomatoes is 72%. Audience score, obviously, again, another one that's going to gear towards more the audience than the critics. Didn't see this one, but it did very well in its target audience, even not so in the critics, but that wasn't really what they were aiming for. The original one grossed $18.5 million, which was so the second one is almost matched that already, which is just funny to think of, and some kind of comparisons to where it's at right now, just over the other long-awaited comedy sequel, Zoolander 2, which grossed $13.8 million and ended up grossing $28.8. And Harold and Kumar Escape from Guantanamo. Wow. Okay, let's try that again. Harold and Kumar Escape from Guantanamo Bay. That was awful. I'm just gonna move on. That opened to 14.9, so a little bit more, and that finished with just under 40 million. So that's probably what the range is for where this will finish. We'll see how it goes. I was just sorry I had like a moment there because I don't usually write down the exact numbers that it grossed. I have like my chart from Box Office Mojo that I'm looking at, and it has like a weird glitch with where it's listing Super Troopers because okay, it got I don't know why it's saying its opening weekend was 2.8 million, but I am 100% sure that is not the case. That doesn't make sense. I don't know, 'cause, it was 14.7 million, so I'm not sure what's happening there, or if it's counting like weird days. I don't know. But that went way above expectations. I'm very flustered because I wasn't expecting that number to show up. Anyway, rounding out the top 5 as we move smoothly forward with a great professional recovery for myself, Truth or Dare, which dropped a whopping 58% in its second week. Still got 7.7 million, already far surpassed its budget, which had a budget of $32 million. Wrong movie. $3.5 million. I was looking at I Feel Pretty for a second there. $3.5 million, and its total gross right now is $30.2 million. So it doesn't even really have to worry about how well it's holding because it already had that nice opening weekend. Then we got the per theater average. We had Ghost Stories in one theater made $11,972, and that one is a drama horror film starring Martin Freeman, and it's about an arch-skeptic Professor Philip Goodman who embarks upon a terror-filled quest when he stumbles across a long-lost file containing details of 3 cases of inexplicable hauntings. And that one is got a 6.8 on IMDb right now on over 2,000 ratings, and a 69 on Metascore. So solid, did very well in its one screen. We'll see how it holds. Also, one other film that it opened up in its first week was Traffic. Traffic opened up to 3.9 million in its first week in just over 1,000 theaters. And that was just because we didn't touch on it last week. That was about a couple who were off for a romantic weekend in the mountains who are accosted by a biker gang. Alone in the mountains, Brea and John must defend themselves against the gang, who will stop at nothing to protect their secrets. And that one has a nice 6.7 on IMDb and a 39 Metascore. And lastly, we got Black Panther, still making news, brought in 4.6 million this week. And stayed, or actually 4.9 million, excuse me, and stayed in the top 10, came in at number 7. And if it stays in the top 10 this week, or next week, then it will be the first time since 2008 when we will have 2 Marvel Cinematic Universe films in the top 10 in the same week, since 2008 was Iron Man and the Incredible Hulk. You remember back when it all started. I'm surprised it hasn't happened once since then, but I guess they've certainly tried to keep them well spaced out. And to be fair, hey, it's been 10 weeks. Black Panther's stayed in the top 10 the whole time. Who would have thunk? Not me, certainly. But with that, we will take a break. We're about halfway through the comeback. We got to talk about our one wide release. And then we will see what's up in the worldwide top 10 and the domestic top 10. So stay with me. We'll be right back. This is your box office breakdown, and I am Garret Neal here on Radio DePaul, Chicago's College Connection. Welcome back, everybody. Before we get back into the show, got to tell you one thing. Demon-thon is a 24-hour dance marathon that DePaul hosts every year to raise money for the Robert H. and Ann Laurie Children's Hospital. If you can't make the dance, which is on May 4th and the 5th, don't worry, because you can join us right here on Radio DePaul as we cover the entire event live from the dance itself. So join us right here for exclusive interviews with the families affected, those who organize this amazing experience, and many more heartwarming segments that are only found on Radio DePaul. We also urge you to donate to this great cause through our links on our website, the app, and social media, because every little bit helps. Doesn't have to be much. It all helps the families at Laurie Children's Hospital, and together we can and will make a real difference. So be sure to listen to the big event right here on Radio DePaul, May 4th through the 5th. Radio DePaul, Chicago's College Connection, blah, blah, blah. All right, we got one film this week, and in case you didn't know, Avengers Infinity War at long last has come to us, the culmination of 10 years, 20 films, 18, and at last we will get it. Right now, somehow has a 9.2 on IMDb. I don't know how or why voting was opened up for that, but I disregard that completely. Does have a 99% want-to-see score on Rotten Tomatoes, but I mean, honestly, this isn't a movie that, especially for opening weekend wise, is something that you got to be worried about. Like, reviews don't matter for this at all, really. Right now, the Box Office Pro long range forecast has this set at 235 million projected on opening weekend. It's set for 4,200 screens. I mean, this thing's going to be everywhere. I mean, even at the Landmark Theater by here, or the studio, which that's like for independent films, they're going to get Infinity War. I mean, this thing is going everywhere it can, and it's selling out almost everywhere as well. I mean, we got an article from CNN over the weekend. This thing's got over 1,000 sold out shows according to Fandango, and the theaters just keep adding on shows as much as they can because hey, gotta get that money. I feel bad, especially someone who's worked at the theater and is terrible at staying up late. Definitely a morning person. I mean, there's one theater apparently in New York that has a 3:05 a.m. showing on Friday. I mean, like, come on. I don't want to. Who's working that? That's terrible. What's their shift? Like, okay, I'm not a night person, and being a morning person who works in a movie theater kind of sucks because obviously the movie theater's not really open in the mornings too often, and I don't like staying late. But like that's gotta be terrible. I mean, it's gotta be terrible anyway, just because of how many people are gonna be in the theaters. Especially me, the theater that I worked at over the summer. Thing is not made for large crowds. Let me tell you. I mean, hopefully, most of these theaters are gonna have plenty of staff, lines all worked out, so everything will run smoothly. But I know the theater I worked at, it was. Even when we were fully staffed, things were always a step slow for films like, I mean, for Star Wars The Last Jedi, that opening weekend was rough. I mean, Christmas weekend was really bad, which, I mean, that was Last Jedi. But even like Jumanji and such, when that came out, it was a mess. So hopefully, hey, if you're working at a theater out there, stay safe, stay sane. Don't go crazy with anything. Hopefully it'll all be okay. And pre-sale, Disney said it was outpacing the last 7 MCU films combined. And I mean, to be fair, we're taking a look at the last 7 MCU films. We got Black Panther, Thor Ragnarok, Spider-Man Homecoming, Guardians of the Galaxy 2, Doctor Strange, Civil War, and Ant-Man. I mean, obviously all of these are like big films because everything in the MCU is a big film, but I mean, especially Ant-Man and Doctor Strange aren't really ones that were huge pre-sale wise. And even Thor Ragnarok, I mean, that one ended up doing pretty well because it got some positive word of mouth, and a lot of people liked that. But I mean, coming off the first 2 Thors are probably some of the worst of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I mean, so just to be fair, of the 7, I mean, I think Black Panther, Guardians 2, and Civil War are the only ones that were really had a lot of hype behind them. And maybe Homecoming as well, but not as much. So, not like the best stretch of 7 movies we've ever seen, but still just goes to show, I mean, I really think that this will definitely go above 235 million. And right now, I mean, if we're going for the top opening weekends of all time, number 1 is 247.9 with The Force Awakens. I definitely think this will get close and would not be surprised if it beat it. I mean, it's certainly, even if it does hit 235, which I think is really a given, that'll put it right at number 2. Right now, number 2 is The Last Jedi with 220 million. That's going to be blown out of the water. And obviously, top openings in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, The Avengers was 207 million. Black Panther just under that at 202. And those don't even stand a chance. And it just looking at, I realize I've managed to blabber about this film and make it fill out the entire last segment, and it's now only a few minutes left in the show. But if we're looking at the 2018 domestic box office right now, the top 10, we got Black Panther coming in at number 1, of course, at 681 million. Then A Quiet Place at 131 million. Ready Player One at 126. Then at number 4, Peter Rabbit, 114 million. Number 5, 50 Shades Freed at 100 million. A Wrinkle in Time at number 6. At 93 million. I Can Only Imagine wow, that blew stuff out of the water, man. It still blows my mind. 79 million. Wow, big drop off between Wrinkle in Time and I Can Only Imagine. Game Night, 68 million at number 8. Number 9, Insidious: The Last Key, still hanging around from the beginning of the year, 67 million. And number 10 is Rampage at 65 million. So you can already see right there, just domestically, if just it all, I mean, it's guaranteed Infinity War is to open up at number 2 in the whole year, just with its opening weekend, which is crazy just to think about. Like, I'm so excited next week, not just to talk about the numbers, of course, which I'm sure will be off the charts in so many ways. People are going to be coming up with random records left and right that this thing is going to be breaking, and that'll be really fun to talk about. Not only that, though, but I'll have seen the film, and my life will be changed, whether the film is good, bad, somewhere in between. It'll change my life just because, I mean, I don't think this is a film that can be somewhere in between. I mean, I'm kind of in the camp where I've already decided this is going to be a film that I love, just because seeing all these characters that I barely even know from the comics. I haven't even read that many comics, just through the films, and seeing them all, most of them multiple times, just seeing them all together. It's going to be incredible. Way too excited. Hopefully that rant on Infinity War didn't bother you too much, but that's going to do it for our show this week. Stick around next week when we'll talk all about what the heck happened with Infinity War, how many records did it break, what records did it not break, and there'll be some other films coming out that week as well that we'll talk about. So stay with us then. This has been me, Garret Neal, talking about some numbers and movies and stuff in your box office breakdown on Radio DePaul, Chicago's College Connection. Have a wonderful day.